It is Sunday night. We're talking baseball. We're talking NFBC. We're talking FAAB. I got a special guest, and we're podcasting through a hurricane. All coming up next on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Happy Sunday night, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Glad to have everybody listening, watching, whatever you may be doing, how you may be viewing this or listening to this. We really do appreciate everybody doing that. If you can please rate and review the podcast, we also appreciate that. Helps people find the podcast, etc. If we've helped you all year, you've enjoyed listening to us, that would be a fantastic thing to do there. I am Scott Jenstad. I should have said that at the beginning. Jeff Erickson is out playing golf somewhere, although I think he was flying back today, which is probably not great, flying back into the Los Angeles Hurricane Hillary here. It's been a crazy day. But have a very special guest, a guest who is who's having a really good season in the NFBC. So I wanted to get him on. Everybody loves him anyway, but our friend Brian Slack's doing really well. Brian, how are you? Thanks for joining. I appreciate you saying yes to the invite.
I'm really starting to do this, Scott. I'm not too sure. Are we? Is this a football podcast?
It is. We're going to talk about Jackson Smith and Jigba for the next hour.
You know, I'm a football expert now.
I do know that. I heard you're playing in the NFFC primetime. So suddenly, I trying to beat you in one sport. It's bad enough I got to beat you in two sports. I'm having nightmares already.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I bought my brother-in-law a team, and I've been studying for about a week, and I know about like 6 players now. So it's going to be quite exciting.
I would like to be your brother-in-law. That's a good present right there.
Yeah, he's turning 40, so I tried to do my best.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah, so thankfully he knows what he's doing. I have obviously no clue, but
yeah, I've heard that before. And then I look at the standings, Brian, and you're third overall in the main event right now. I was excited to have you on, obviously anyway, but you are up there. You got about 6,800 points. You're up a little bit today. You have John Posma, who is an absolute beast at this thing, is leading, has been leading for a while, but you're about 200 points behind him. I don't want to talk too much about your team. We got a lot of players to cover, but how are you feeling right now? We've got 6 weeks left. As someone who was in that spot last year with about 6 weeks left and about 2 weeks left, I handled it badly. How are you handling it?
I mean, I disagree. I just disagree. I think you handled it very well. Honestly, it's very instructive.
I don't feel like I handled it well, but I appreciate you saying that.
I mean, I know you had been there before, right? And like a top 5, top 10 finish is hard to be, super disappointed with. But I looked at what you did, and like I said, I valued it, and I think I'll probably hope to be kind of in a spot where you can kind of, these teams, at least from where I come, they don't happen, all that often. So you're just like, you want to kind of be aggressive. If you see a shot, if you have an angle that slightly increases your chance of, getting first, while seriously, opening up the idea that you might fall outside the top 10 or 20 or whatever, I think I'll probably be, trying to take that chance. We
got 6 weeks left. How much money, how much FAAB do you have left?
Oh my gosh. So we had 130, and I should mention, I have a longtime partner, Nick Sackett. He is now kind of financially, and now that the team is doing a little bit better, much more active on the text.
I'm shocked to hear that from Nick.
Shocking.
I'm shocked to hear that the bandwagon got a little bit heavier when Nick jumped on it recently. That's nice.
Team's in 400th place. I haven't heard from this guy in the longest time.
Yeah.
Now it's like, hey, buddy, how's the fam?
Yeah, suddenly saving the world's not that important when you're third overall.
Exactly. But so I kind of co-manage this team with Dylan White. Baseball America does a lot of prospects up. Super sharp guy. And I think just another testament to me that I'm able to kind of latch on with people that are much smarter than me and let them lead the way. So, but yeah, no, we had like $130 entering the day, which was pretty good, but there were some people with like a lot more, and then we spent 68 today. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to talking about this. This is a big spend. Then that's going to be a good when we get to the FAAB section. I see you're at 600 more points pitching than hitting. Do you have like a one hitting stat that's really weak? Do you have you're like home runs a little weak? Like, did you have one spot you can really kind of attack if you need to get points?
Yeah. Stolen bases were an issue, have been an issue, and yeah.
Who would have fixed that is CJ Abrams.
I've heard of this guy. Yeah, I think he's quite talented. I mean, I was looking at this.
You lost him by $1. Am I correct on that?
I lost Geloff by $1, and then on this team, and then Abrams was 63, and I honestly I thought it was good. And just in the back of my mind, I'm like opening up the results at 705 or whatever it is. shout out Greg for getting those results turned around in like 5 minutes these days. It used to be 30 minutes for those of you that don't remember. But yeah, so I opened it up. I was like, oh yeah, we got him. And then it was like $82. And I was like, oh man. So,
and then he just got crazy hot after that too. So yeah, that's tough. I feel you there. There's always those little misses, but I only bring it up because I joke, and you're way ahead of me, so I'm allowed to go there. But yeah. So how are you feeling in terms of like, are you watching games? Are you watching every box? Are you clicking the online the live standings every 30 seconds? How are you handling this? Because I need some advice on that, because if I ever get there again, I'd like to do it differently.
Yeah, pretty much locked in all the time. I mean, I wear out my MLB app. I've never really watched much baseball. I watch the Dodgers, but I think I get in trouble. This dates back to when Stephen Vogt was playing, for the A's, maybe like 2015 or something. I was like, this guy's not very good. And he turned out to be pretty talented. So ever since then, I've abandoned the idea of doing my own scouting. But yeah, so I'm just like on the MLB app, wearing it out pretty much. Yeah.
So you're actively watching pitch by. If you're watching on the app, but you're watching pitch by pitch, you know what the hitters are going. You're not like doing the I'll find out later sort of thing. You're pretty locked in. You're pretty locked in minute by minute.
You're on an island there, Scott.
Yeah.
Nobody is like
I think
you.
I probably am. Do you enjoy that? Do you enjoy that sweat, or is it stressful?
I enjoy it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoy it. I watch the closers, watch my starters. Yeah. Everything. I don't know. Somehow not watching it and being like, oh man, I hope this goes well. It's not, it causes me more stress.
Paul Spohr giving me shade already. It's 15 minutes in, 6 minutes in, actually. I'm not surprised. So that's about right. I follow my teams, Paul. I just didn't do it late last year because it was going so badly. It was just frustrating, but I do get it. I fully admit that was, I butchered it, and I did not handle the sweat correctly, but you mentioned the Dodgers, Brian, Dodgers. I feel like we, as fans, deserve a Braves-Dodgers NLCS. These two teams are so damn good. I was actually at the Dodgers game last night, prior to Dodger Stadium becoming an island. The pictures of Dodger Stadium today and the flooding is crazy, by the way. I was there last night. 2 observations. One, I think it's amazing how much more you realize the pitch clock is there when you're at a game in person. We sat down. I was with my daughter and my wife, and we're waiting for a couple friends to show up. And I'm like, all right, we'll get some food after this half inning. We went and get food in the second inning. We got up a second time, like go to the bathroom or something. I looked up at Mookie's adding his 3rd at bat. I was like, what inning? Like, how's Mookie up again? It's a 2-1 game. And I looked up and it's like the bottom of the 6th. It was just so crazy how fast it goes. I like it on TV, but in person, it feels that I don't know. It felt like I was a little. The game was only 2:05, so it felt like we were a little rushed, and like all of a sudden we're like getting back in the car and sitting in traffic, which is never what you want at Dodger Stadium. But man, Braves Dodgers, I hope we get that. Baseball playoffs are so tough. I mean, so much kind of goes out the window with the best record in the season. But I feel like these two teams are so far and away better than anybody else in the NL. I really hope we get that series. I think it'd be a blast.
Yeah, me too. Especially as somebody who's rooted for the Dodgers for a long time, and kind of see how that's gone. But I think that it's kind of a crapshoot. It's kind of who can get hot, who can get in. I mean, they talked about kind of approaching it with more urgency, when they make the postseason, but because sometimes they'll be a little bit flat just to start. And you look up and you're at home. So yeah, I mean, they are so much better than the rest of these teams in the NL.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their run differential on the Braves is 212, 143 in the Dodgers. You got to go all the way down to the Cubs at plus 65 to get the third team. I mean, like I said, it's so tough in a 7-game series, 5-game series, whatever it may be. It's so difficult. But I think these teams, man, I just hope we get a series. I think it should be fun seeing those pitchers match up, seeing the Braves hitters go against Kershaw and Urias and whoever else they may bring out, Bueller's back, etc. It's just going to be a lot of fun. I hope we really get it. If 76 wins and 80 wins, I think we deserve that series. I'd love to get that. And I'd like to get Baltimore, Texas in the AL because I think those are both fun young teams, and I'm kind of tired of Houston anyway.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat on Houston. Yeah. I am also pulling for the Red Sox this year.
Oh, look at you!
Got a little futures bet. I think, and I've said this before,
I knew there was a reason,
but I think they're the best. I mean, on the field, like if they were to play right now, I know the records don't necessarily reflect that, but I think they're as good as anybody, honestly. So
the sweep over the Yankees was big. The Yankees can't beat anybody right now, but the Braves are 16% to get in the playoffs, or the Red Sox are 16% in the playoffs right now.
Those are just numbers. Those are just
numbers. Yeah, one more hot streak and they're right there. I mean, Toronto's 2.5 games ahead of them. They're 65%, so it can change pretty quick. But yeah, Red Sox have been hot lately. If they can get some pitching, they can definitely score some runs. If they can get some outs, they can be a tough out.
I think so. I know Seattle's been playing better, and then Toronto is formidable. But yeah, I just look at it. I'm like this, and they had I think the toughest schedule the first half. The Red Sox did. So
speaking of Baltimore, should Gunnar Henderson have stopped at first today and gotten the cycle?
Oh, I did not follow that.
He had a double, a triple, and a home run against the A's. He hit a ball down the line and like hustled into a double. So he did not get the cycle because of the better result. And all the guys in the dugouts were it was 10-1. So the guys in the dugout were trying to yell at him stay at first. But good for the game that he didn't. But it's just kind of a silly rule when you need a single and you get a double, it doesn't count.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's jump into the fantasy world for week 22. Crazy that we're at week 22. Schedule wise, we got a lot of games this week, Brian. It's going to be a good week. We only have one team with 5 games. The Milwaukee Brewers are the only team with 5 games after having a bunch this last week. We have 7 teams with 7 games. The Cubs, the Pirates, the Reds, the Astros, your A's, the Red Sox, and the White Sox are all 7 gamers. As you were looking at your team this week, maybe trying to stream some offense, find someone. Who did you like schedule-wise on offense this week? Because I think there's some good setups this week, especially some of the 7 gamers.
Yeah. I liked some of the Pirates. There weren't a lot of Cubs available, but yeah, look at some Pirates, and then Pablo Reyes of my Red Sox, and and then some A's a little bit too. What's his first name? Lawrence.
Lawrence Butler.
Yeah, Lawrence Butler. Yeah,
I call him Larry.
Larry. Okay, yeah. They got a pretty nice little matchup. I know he's got a couple lefties, but the weekend series against the White Sox looked pretty appealing.
It did. I thought the A's had a pretty good setup too. They got 3 against Kansas City and then 4 against the White Sox. Nice setup. I mean, the A's offense is not good, but a couple of intriguing bats now that they've called some guys up. And, obviously you mentioned Geloff and getting outbid on him. The guy's been awesome since he got called up. So the offense is coming around a little bit. Lawrence Butler's a little interesting too. A little bit of speed, a little bit of power. He's playing a little more than I thought he would. When we talked about him last week, I was kind of worried that he wasn't going to get all the at-bats, but they're playing him pretty consistently. I know you mentioned there's a couple lefties on the schedule, but I think he plays at least 5 times this week, and the speed power is intriguing there. You mentioned Pittsburgh. I really like that schedule. They are 7 at home this week, 3 against the Cardinals, 4 against the Cubs. I know the Cubs are playing good baseball, but I don't really fear facing them. You get Hendricks in there. You get Drew Smiley in there. They do face Justin Steele, who's 14-3 and never seems to lose. He's pitching, having an awesome year. But you get Hendricks, you get Assad, who pitched pretty well, who we'll talk about in the FAAB section. Smiley. I do like the Pirates schedule. I think that it's a week for the Pirates to score some runs.
For sure. And even just when you mentioned Justin Steele, it's funny when you don't have somebody on your team, you're just like, oh, that when you're 14 and what'd you say, 14-2, something like that?
14-3. Yeah. Every time I look at him, it's frustrating because I had him highlighted and didn't draft him. Another mistake I made is not executing drafts well this year. But yeah, Steele's been really, really good. It's funny. Everybody's like, oh, every pitcher getting blown up. I'm like, not Justin Steele. Every time I hear that thing, I'm like, well, except for Justin Steele. He's been really, really good. You mentioned the Cubs. Yeah, not a lot of Cubs available, but man, you talk about schedules. They're 3 against Detroit and then 4 against Pittsburgh. Talk about pitchers you want to face. That's a fun schedule for the Cubs, and Cubs are a team that can score some runs too.
Yep. Bellinger is hitting home runs. Dansby Swanson has come around, and Nico Horner, another guy that I liked but just did not quite end up within that range, has been amazing.
Nico Horner with 15 steals since the All-Star break. Is that right?
No,
12 steals since the All-Star break. 25 runs, 12 steals, hitting 315 since the All-Star break. That's over essentially like a month, maybe a little more than a month. He's been really good the last month or so.
Yeah, and for people that took him in the 10th round or something, what a boon. 32 steals, 9 homers, 283 batting average.
Yeah, Ooh. It's just he's been huge, and runs scored and stolen bases are always kind of tough to find. All the runs scored guys are always just the best players, and he's been huge there, especially in the second half. The aforementioned Astros have a really nice setup too this week. They do play 3 against your Red Sox. It could be a little bit tough. They get Paxton and Houck and Chris Sale, but then they finish the week actually 4 against the Red Sox. They get Brian Bayo too, and they get 3 against Detroit. So I think the Astros, again, another team that's not a lot of guys available. Maybe some other outfielders in a 12-teamer. They got a really good setup here too.
Yeah. Like you said, there wasn't too. I don't have that much exposure. A little bit of Yainer Diaz, but not too much beyond that.
In terms of the 6 gamers, the one that really stuck out to me, Tampa Bay. They had to score a ton of runs on the Angels yesterday. They 3 home against Colorado and 3 home against New York. New York is in an absolute free fall right now. Even Garrett Cole got smoked by your Red Sox this weekend, but the Tampa Bay misses Garrett Cole. Looks like they get Brito. They get Rodon, who has not gotten anybody out even when he was healthy. Clark Schmidt. It should be a week. If you have some Rays, and you can always, they platoon a lot. You can always find some Rays on the wire. That's a good team. It's sort of the 6 gamers. That was probably my favorite one.
Yeah, it's a good schedule. I got a little Yandy Diaz, hoping that works out. maybe Jose Siri plays a little bit more. It's kind of been a little bit frustrating with him, but
Siri has been a wild season. Like, you look at his like home runs per plate appearance, and it's like up there with the elite guys, but he's either a home run or a strikeout. Like, it's wild. He's hitting 219 overall, but 24 home runs and 304 plate appearances is a big ass number.
Yeah. I just, for the most part, when, kind of almost even sometimes when he's not in the lineup on a specific set, I'll still just kind of roll him out there.
Yeah, it's always tough when he sits on the Monday or the Friday. You're like, oh, suddenly it's a game down. But I found when I benched him, he's homered. So I usually leave him in there where I can support the batting average with 37% strikeout rate, 5.5% walk rate. I wonder why people still pitch to Jose Siri.
Yep, I agree.
So let's jump into FAAB. I feel like there were a lot of options this week. There's been a lot of weeks this year where I'm looking at everything, and I'm not really writing a lot of names down. I know I'm old. I write stuff down as I do FAAB, but we had some prospect call-ups. We had some guys returning off the injured list. We have some guys kind of playing more and breaking out a little bit. But let's start with the call-ups. Mason Wynn with the Cardinals looks like he's kind of up. Playing shortstop every day. If Pete Alonso's not throwing his hits into the stands, we should be good with Mason Wynn playing every day. Tell you what, I looked at his minor league stats as I was making bids today. 18 home runs, 17 stolen bases so far this year in AAA. Last year, 28 stolen bases, only 400 plate appearances in AA. Doesn't strike out a lot, which is a really good sign. You want that because you're always going to get the bump when a rookie gets called up. Where did you come with Mason Wynn this week? He's shortstop eligible if you need a middle infielder. He felt to me like the best of the three prospects for 2023 fantasy-wise.
I probably had him third of the three.
Right.
Yeah, I see it too. I mean, I think that maybe there were more questions, not really about the batting average. The batting average, I think, is going to be the contact skills are good. Sub 20% K rate in the minors. And the speed is nice. 17 steals at about 105 games.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of buried in the order a little bit. Maybe there's a few games skipped here and there, which isn't like the worst thing ever. I liked him. Maybe just more questions about like kind of the power output. I know he had 18 homers, but kind of it looked like some of the and he had a 110 max EV at AAA, so it might be better than I gave it credit for. But I think if there was anything, I was kind of maybe just thinking it was maybe a little bit more watered down than the current minor league numbers suggested.
Yeah, I just thought he was like the most, like the next 6 weeks, like could give me something. I thought he was the best of the group that I liked there, just because of the strikeouts. I think he'll kind of translate fairly decently if he can run a little bit. I think he's going to play every day. I don't think the Cardinals have any reason not to play him, which I really like. Where I think that with the Angels, maybe when Crone comes back. Schanuel, I was trying to work on that pronunciation. Schanuel goes back down or stops playing. Obviously, he just came up. But were you in on Nolan Schanuel? I looked it up, and I think that's how you say it. I listened to a couple clips from his minor league announcer and from Matt Vesgersen because I hate to butcher names. I'm sure I'm still butchering it, but I did make the effort this time. You mentioned you had Wynn third. Did you have Schanuel ahead of Wynn?
I actually don't even know. I think I was thinking of somebody else that was
all right, okay.
in that mix. But it totally makes sense because Ji-Hwan Bae has been playing for a while. And I think I was kind of lumping him when I was thinking of the three. So I had Ji-Hwan Bae and I was thinking about Noelvi Marte as well. So the person
Paul Sporer, I appreciate the props and the pronunciation. That means a lot to me. So I do appreciate that. I did work on that.
It was fantastic.
But it's wild. I mean, he's called up. He was drafted literally a few weeks ago. I mean, it has not been up has not been very long since he was in the league. Very difficult to come and hit. But you look at projections, and projections are usually really tough on young hitters. And they actually have him fairly decent, in terms of you look at the numbers, and there's not a lot of home runs or anything, but they seem to like think he can compete a little bit right away. Did you bid on him at all? I mean, I think the CJ Crone going to come back at some point is an issue. But where were you with Schanuel? I just want to say it over and over now.
I love it. No, you gotta keep going to it. He was okay. I didn't really know. Most of my corners were kind of pretty good, and there's just such a small sample that I wasn't too sure what to do with. But I did like, he did project really well. And then you're like, okay. In his limited, professional experience, he's been walking a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, I don't even think it was that cheap to find out, but I had some bids in, and I do not think I got any.
Yeah, I mean, the dude hit 450 in colleges here at Florida Atlantic. I remember when they were the College World Series, a lot of people were talking about him. He had 19 homers. He had 64 RBI. So, I mean, he really raked. Got a funky stance where you look at him, you're like, I don't know how he can ever hit a high fastball, but I think by the time the pitch comes, he kind of gets back into a good hitting position. But I was in on him cheaply. I actually am not that good at corner. I've had bunch of injuries at corner, so I was in cheap there. But I think the Angels are done, so that helps him a lot. I think that a lot of people were critical of the Angels for calling him up after a month or whatever in the minors, but I just think that they're out of it anyway. It's not like anybody's expecting anything. He can get 80 plate appearances, kind of hang out with the big club a little bit, see what it's like to be a big leaguer. I actually think if he's the right mindset, that if he struggles, it won't affect him long term. Some guys struggle and they get in their head, but as long as they think he's like mentally okay with it, I kind of like the call up, considering they're dead anyway.
Yeah, I like it. How much did you get it for?
I got him for $2 in my main event. I think I'm looking at it here. Yeah, I had him for $2 in one. And the other one I got outbid. And I didn't need a corner in one spot, but $2 is $2. Can't be too wrong there.
Yeah, I like it.
So I'm assuming by this way you said you like someone more than Mason when you're talking about Noelvi Marte. Tell me what you liked with him. Getting called up by the Reds. Their GM said he's going to play third base every day. I was a little surprised by the playing time pronouncement, considering they're still in the mix. But it sounds like Marte is up to play, at least for right now.
Yeah, I think that was. He was just a slight, notch above Wynn. I think that they both have, in some ways, kind of similar, kind of profiles. When Noelvi hasn't stolen as much and didn't have like great speed grades. I kind of followed him a little bit more because I'm very into Dynasty baseball, Scott.
Yeah, I know you called me one day trying to get in your league, and it went really well for you.
Yeah, and so I think I've kind of followed his trajectory a little bit. I think there was didn't look great at the end of last year, and then I think there were some questions about like kind of his athleticism, kind of maxing out a little bit, and so they moved him third base. But it looks like this year he's kind of like shown some good. He's got sub 20% K rate, over 20% walk rate. And, he's got 13.8 max EV in the minors, 11 homers and 18 steals in 90 games, about 350 plate appearances between AA and AAA there. So, I liked, organizationally too, I think that, the Reds seem to really be pushing it on the base paths. And him, I wish I could give some more like solid, like really analytical analysis here, but him stealing third, they were down a run last night.
Yeah.
And just stealing, just first game, pinch run, steals third. I'm just like, a lot of these guys, these Reds, like when they're getting on, they're running. And I do think that will probably happen with Wynn as well. But I just thought maybe, in that ballpark, maybe a little bit of a softer landing, and maybe he can get a little bit of that combo, the power speed, tap into a little bit more power than maybe Wynn did. Yeah,
and he's got 11 home runs, 18 stolen bases, and obviously he is the bigger like name prospect. He is an elite level prospect. He is way up on prospect board. So I think that probably got people more interested. Did you end up getting him? You mentioned you spent some money this week. Was that one of the guys you spent money on?
Yeah, Scott. So
nice. That's a good thing. You got a stud prospect with 6 weeks left. That's fun. If you're gonna win an overall, this is the kind of guy that you can get to like get hot for 6 weeks.
I just really, really appreciate using the word stud prospect there. That makes me feel good about it. It was 33-13, and the average bid was 15 on him. So one of those situations.
You, at $130, you've got. You need to spend some money there. Like I know you'll spend it by the end, but like you could definitely afford a $30 guy for sure.
Yep. And that was kind of part of the thinking. There was a guy that's actually in third place that had something like he had $700 right like around the All-Star break, and now he's down to about $3. So like it wasn't, there's like Jordan Lawler left and maybe some other guys that might come up, but I found myself running into this situation even when like the CJ Abrams bidding was happening, was like, Trevor, knowing that Trevor Story would eventually come up, and you're just like, well, you just don't know what he's going to do. So like getting in that spot like repeatedly was suboptimal. I didn't really want to do it again. So in that instance, we try to kind of go up a little bit higher for Marte, but obviously, with 130 and you realize you could have had $20 extra, always
sure
not the greatest feeling.
I really don't ever sweat anything under $50 with the backup bid. Honestly, if I spend like $212 on someone, the backup's 57, like then I made a mistake in my process, but like 33-13, like someone easily could have bid 25. You mentioned the CJ Abrams thing. You thought you guys were aggressive on that and someone went for 80. Like, I just think that you got 6 weeks left. You had $130. I think going after Marte aggressively here was a good call. I wouldn't worry about the $20. 33-13 is nothing that I would ever lose sleep over.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that makes one of us.
There you go. No sleep for you tonight. Blame the hurricane. It's
every Sunday night. It's very restless. This roller coaster that I go on. It's every week of the season, not just this team. It's every week. It's like after FAAB runs, it's just like a bit of a high, and then I go through all the things I should have done. And by the time Monday games start, I'm just like,
when do you set lineups tonight, or you wait till tomorrow? Or did that change after 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, exactly. I usually do a run Sunday nights, especially on my DCs, and just then I
get the injured guys out, like the obvious things like that.
Yeah, and usually pitchers too. I think people were making this point as the snafu was unfolding, but a lot of times I do look at batters and lineups that'll really dictate my last like 30 minutes before lineup block.
You're in good company here. Your friend Clark Olson, who is second in the overall, also got Noelvi Marte. So unfortunately, every time he does something well, he's doing something well for Clark also. But Clark is a really good dude. So I'm happy you guys are both up there. I like John Posma too. The top three is really good right now. All three guys that I know personally and really like. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I sat next to Clark in Vegas, and I think he's leading the DC as well. If I'm not mistaken.
I've sat next to him in football a couple times. It did not go well for me any of those times.
Yep, it's brutal.
Although he's using his Adam Thielen Vikings jersey, so I don't know what happens now because Adam Thielen's not on the Vikings anymore. You should know that because you're doing the NFFC. I'm sure you've already studied the Panthers depth chart.
Panthers. Okay, yeah, that's right.
Did you know that Jackson Smith and Jigba's brother plays for the Pirates?
CSN, yeah.
Caden Smith and Jigba, yes.
That's right. That's right.
Other names there were interesting names in FAAB this week. It was fun. Logan O'Hoppe, 25% rostered in the main event, was a fun guy. People really were excited about him in the preseason. Then he got injured. He is back now. He played Friday night and Saturday night for the Angels. It's a catcher. Catcher twos are really, really tough to find. Were you trying to get in on some O'Hoppe this year?
I like him. I did not like him. Money's a little bit tight in other spots, and Elias Diaz would have been the guy that I dropped him for. I did consider dropping him. Tough. I did consider dropping him for Henry Davis actually in one league, but I think I ended up pulling that back. But I
wouldn't have done the Diaz swap. I think I just would hang Diaz there. I'm trying to remember who I dropped. I actually like Andy Rodriguez, but I dropped Rodriguez for O'Hoppe. I actually like Rodriguez, but it was like if I get him really cheap, I get O'Hoppe really cheap, I'm going to do it. I did not put a bid in for him where I have Gary Sanchez and Cal Raleigh, so it was kind of in that range. But I did drop him for Andy just because I do like Andy, but I think a little more pop with O'Hoppe. This is someone that's he was a real prospect. The Angels like him. He was getting some sexy push up in the offseason, had 15 home runs in Double-A last year with I almost said the Eagles. Geez, you got me in football mode with the Phillies. Hit 275. So it's small sample this year, but hitting the ball hard. In terms of getting a catcher too this late in the year, I thought it was a really nice spot to try and jump up and grab him.
Yep, I wish if that had come along at a different time when I was a little bit more desperate for catching. I think that would have been nice. Yeah.
Did you? How do you feel about Charlie Blackmon these days? He is back. Hit a long home run, like one of the longer home runs I've seen Charlie Blackmon in a while. It's like 440 or something like that. The Rockies are going on the road right now, but he was available in half the main events off the injury list. How do you feel about little Charlie Blackmon for the last 6 weeks? You think there's any spark left in those old legs?
Yeah, probably. My luck. I did not get any. I had he was on the lines, but I probably had a couple guys over him, maybe one or two. But a lot of times I needed speed, and
you're not getting that from Charlie Blackmon.
Yeah. So and then I think that the schedule should be good next week. Not this coming week, but the following week. Yeah, he's talented. Still got a little bit in there.
Yeah, I lost a 5-5 bid on Charlie Blackmon. I'm not too upset about it. I think he's just a guy right now, but you play him for cores in the NFBC. We can kind of play half weeks. I think you play him for cores and you send him on the road, but he only had 16 home runs last year, hit 264. You're not missing out too much, but I think he's, someone that in the cores weeks could get hot, give you a nice batting average there. Did you do anything else with this, this massive outfitters here? We had G1 Bay was 51% rostered in the main event. You mentioned you need steals earlier. He's a guy that runs a lot. His stolen base opportunity number is way up there. Stone Garrett playing every day in Washington and hitting a lot it was interesting. Nelson Velasquez, we talked about a little bit last week, but hitting some home runs for the Royals, playing every day. We mentioned Lawrence Butler in Oakland. How did you kind of feel about this group of outfielders? I think we're kind of in the same range. How did you kind of differentiate between them?
Yeah, so I kind of botched it earlier when you said the three call ups.
You're going to Gian Bay as the third call up. Okay.
Yeah. I had him at win as well.
I thought you were the Schanuel whisperer. Had to get it in there once more.
One last one.
Yeah.
I don't even think that's gonna be the last one on the podcast. Let's be honest. But Bay, I think today was really enlightening, I guess. Is it like he hit leadoff against Keuchel, a lefty? I know they have 3 lefties to start, but if like that becomes a trend, and it looks like when he's doing that Jack Sawinski has kind of sat against the last couple lefties, I guess even before Bay was activated.
Right.
So it's like if he can get run in the leadoff spot, now that's a huge if, right? But if he does, like you said, I think he had like 20 steals and less than half a season, and he's gradually kind of improving his walk rate and K rate and zone contact, and so he's looking pretty decent. But I also remember eyeing him. So I was, I had Noelvi slightly ahead, but the Juwan Bay bids I had, kind of in the low 20s, mid 20s, something like that. And then when I got Noelvi, I was the backup bid on Bay became $13 on the second line, and ended up getting him 13-9. So that was nice. The one. So yeah, pretty pleased with that. But the one thing about that is like we've seen Pittsburgh kind of cycle through. Was it like Josh Palacios or like Rodolfo? Like you look up one time, you're like, oh, this is their leadoff hitter for the indefinite future, and then all of a sudden, like a week and a half later, he's part-time player hitting 7th. Tucupita Marcano, maybe he was in the mix as well. Just guys that like they kind of churn through some guys. So he needs to kind of hit, I think, and that's what kind of caused me some hesitation. Probably a lower floor than Mason Wynn, but I also thought that leading off, with the extra at bats, that he could be something nice.
I think the key with Bay is that the steals are super real. Like, I think that if you need steals, he was the guy to go after this week. He had 30 steals in AAA last year. He had 20 in AA in half season 2020. And then you mentioned this year, 78 games, 20 steals. The Pirates are long since out of it. They have no reason to not let him run. The light should be as green as possible. I think finding stolen base guys is really, really difficult. And I think he's one that if he gets on base, it's a huge if. His OBP was 313, although it was 360 in the minors. So maybe it is a little bit more that he walked a lot in the minors. He was a 10% walk rate guy in 2021 and 2022 in the minors. I was looking at that. You want guys, the stolen base guys, you need them to get on base, whether they can hit or not. Like if he wants to walk 10% of the time, that's cool. I don't care how he gets on base. You need to get on first and run. I thought that Bay was the guy this week. If you need steals, it was the guy to go after. And it was 6 weeks left. You're getting down to the point where, you need to get someone now, although it's not going to help you that much because you're hoping for, if you get 10 steals the next 6 weeks, like that'd be a really good and big number.
Oh yeah. That'd be huge. And yeah, to your point, his walk rate, his rolling 30 game walk rate is I think 12.2%, which is the highest it's been all season. So, he's kind of getting on, like I said, reducing his strikeouts, and it looked, pretty like there was something there, even though, kind of all the rest I mentioned, but yeah, it's pretty excited about it. I think you got him in a spot or two.
I did. I got him in the one main event that's actually fairly competitive. My other ones are not, but yeah, I got him there for $7 in that one. So I was pretty happy with that. The guy that I really liked, and I actually got outbid on, was Stone Garrett. I think that he's really interesting to me. Playing every day for the Nationals right now. Again, another team that's out of it. They have no reason not to play guys. But, you look at Stone Garrett and you scroll back just to last year. I know that Arizona and AAA is a good hitting environment, but 28 home runs, 15 stolen bases, and only 103 games last year. And then you look at AA in 2021, 25-17. Like, I get the feeling this. He strikes out too much. He's going to be a guy that's hot and cold. But, man, if you get a hot streak and he's in one right now, who knows how long it lasts? But you look at the last week and you've got multi-hit games in like 5 of the last 8. He's had a hit in the last 8 games. I just like guys who are playing and hot. I just think that in the end of the season, they're going to let him play. He hit 4th 2 of the last 3 days. I really like Stone Garrett this week. I had bids in for 5 to 7. I actually lost him, and I'm bummed about it. I think he's a really nice ad for the last 6 weeks. He was my top outfielder. Unless I was like specializing for steals or something like that, he was my top overall outfielder that I liked this week.
Yeah, I liked him too. I think he went kind of on average for about $9. I think I was a little bit lower than that, unfortunately. But yeah, I would have liked to have gotten some more there. And yeah,
you just like guys playing every day and hitting well. He's going to strike out too much. He's going to get cold at some point. But I think riding guys this week, this time of the season is just a really good thing to do. Something I didn't do enough of last year. I kind of just relied on my guys. I've talked about a lot that I just kind of kept playing the main guys last year, and I struggled down the stretch as guys were really in a slump. And you got to adjust these last 6 weeks. Who you drafted and where you took them means nothing at this point. You got to get guys who are playing and hot, and I think Garrett fits that really nicely. Did you do anything with, you mentioned steals. Did you look at all at JP Martinez in Texas? Not really playing every day, but he's a big stolen base guy. He had 33 stolen bases in 67 games in AAA so far this year. Literally stealing a base every other game for the Rangers in AAA this year. He's really fast. I don't know if he can hit enough. I don't know if he can play enough. But, man, if you need some steals and you didn't get Bay, I felt like JP Martinez was kind of the sneaky guy. If you had no money left, like a $1 or $2 bid on Martinez, you might fall into some steals with him.
Yep. I did have him maybe a little bit further down and did not end up with any. But, I mean, it does seem a little crowded for him to kind of take on a full-time role.
It does, especially on a team that like needs to win. So that was the hesitation I have. But man, the stolen bases look really real and they look pretty epic.
Yeah. I'm intrigued. I think he even thought about him a little bit last week and then he played, I think maybe like 5 of 7 this week, sat a couple times. Leote's still there. I guess Jankowski's back off the paternity leave. I think that was kind of some of the things I was like thinking about last week, but yeah, then this week I just didn't quite get there. Did you?
I did not. I had him down the list. I ended up getting Bay, and I forget someone else. I forget who else I got, but I ended up not getting there. I moved him down a little bit, but I thought if you needed like to just attack steals, and you could like, it's one of those things like. And Paul Spohr was in the chat, made a good chance. It's a good point. Like just because you need steals, I mean, you should go them. Like you got to make sure that you can gain points with your steals. I've got a league where I'm like 15 behind. I'm like, I'm so far behind. Do I need to like try and get them? Should I just punt them? I've kind of played it in the middle, and that's probably the worst place to play it. Like either punt it or don't, or really attack it. But I'm still trying to maybe catch up a couple spots. But you got to make sure you can catch up. But if you're like, 2 spot, you move 3 points with 3 steals or something like that. I thought that Martinez was a sneaky guy that if you didn't have a lot of money, you could slide him through and maybe use him for the first half of the week at least, and then see how the playing time works out.
Yeah. I've fallen into that trap a little bit too, though, where I'm like, okay, I should probably just punt the steals at this point, and then like Lane Thomas will steal four bases in a day, or Glaber will steal 3, and I'm like, okay, I'm back in this. Just terrible terrible managing. But
yeah, I need the season to end so I can stop having Lane Thomas FOMO, because boy, I missed that one badly.
Mm-hmm.
Lane Thomas and Adbert Alzolay are the 2 guys that I liked and had on list, and I never didn't pick them up, and they've both been awesome, and they're both hurting. It sucks when you like someone and that you talk them up and you don't pick them up, and you can't follow through with it. It doesn't count. You don't get to call that one. It's a good call.
Yeah, I had Alzolay as well. I had Fulmer and then Leiter Jr., who I thought was going to be the guy, and then I had both. I think Leiter Jr. and Alzolay, and ended up dropping Alzolay, and that obviously that has not worked out, Scott.
Yeah, I think he has like 20 saves in like the last 3
every day.
Weeks,
every time I look up.
Crazy.
Yep.
Anybody else you're looking at on offense? We've got Lior Peguero that's playing a lot. Mike Ford in Seattle gets 6 righties this week, and it's the White Sox and Royals, so not any righties you're really scared of. Rowdy Tellez is back. Akil Baddoo's hitting leadoff against righties. Kevin Biggio's playing a bunch. Is there anybody else offensive-wise? I thought there were a lot of names this week. We hit kind of all the main ones. Is there anybody else kind of on that list, or someone else who I didn't mention that you liked this week on offense?
I did like Baddoo. I was slightly kind of maybe moved him down a couple spots, but still kept the bids in there. It was always pretty cheap as it was, but with the Parker Meadows news, right? He's getting the call up. So I was like, maybe that, because they're not going to sit Kerry Carpenter or Riley Green. And then you look at DH, It's like Miggy. So you kind of wonder too, because I'm pretty sure Parker Meadows is a lefty, and you're like, I'm not sure exactly how that plays out, but Baddoo's still, they got 6, maybe 7 righties next week. And if he's leading off, he's already stolen a couple bases, I think, this week, and generally playing pretty well. So yeah, I was intrigued by that. So I got him for a bucket, a couple spots. And then stashed Josh Naylor.
I heard some good news on him, maybe on the front end of that the timeline. So that could be a nice one.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Tigers, Spencer Torkelson, 7 home runs already in August. It's I pumped him up early. It didn't work, but he's got 18 home runs the last like 2.5 months. He's finally starting to hit. And I think I read the stat. I can't remember what it was, but there are only 2 players in baseball. Like I think it was Rob DiPietro had it. It was over 60% hard hit rate and 20% barrel rate over the last like 2 months. And it's him and Ohtani. There's some stat in there. I might be missing up the days, but like he's been really good hitting the ball hard lately.
Yeah, and I think he should have actually had another home run yesterday.
He had one today too.
Yeah. You were on him. I remember the Vegas conversation.
Yeah, I liked him a lot. I liked him as for the price. I just thought he was a guy that you're talking around 18. I thought he was a guy that could go 27 and 80, and it looked bad for a while, but 27 and 80 might get pretty close. What is he right now? 22, and I'd have to look how many RBIs he has. He has 60. 8 RBIs. So yeah, I might get there. Might be close.
He's
and
great.
He could fall into like a 30 and 85. I don't think he'll quite get to 30. That'd be a little tough, but not gonna be too short of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Anybody else on offense? I kind of think that's the list. Any Ryan Noda coming back for the A's? I don't know where they're going to play everybody, but your A's. Yeah, they're not my A's. They can be yours if you want them. They are up there. They're for sale if you want them. But I think they're going to be a little too crowded there. But some pop, and he should play against all the righties.
Yeah. Who do you think loses time when he comes back?
It's a really good question. Yeah,
Britt Rooker was available. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Rooker might not play against all righties. I think Seth Brown plays, Geloff plays, Butler's going to have to play. Probably Soderstrom. I think they should give Soderstrom at bats, but maybe Soderstrom loses time. Maybe you play someone in the outfield. I don't know. They can move it around. You probably play Rooker in the outfield and stop playing Tony Kemp ever. But if I were them, I'd just play all the young guys and just make it work. And I would never give Tony Kemp and Aledmys Diaz any at bats, despite the 2 home runs by Aledmys Diaz today.
I didn't even.
By the way, A's fan here. I didn't know Aledmys Diaz was still on the team, and he hit 2 homers today. I was like, oh, is that Jordan Diaz that hit 2 homers? And apparently it was not. Let's jump into FAAB and pitching. We talked about all the hitters, but first, a note from our sponsors at Home Run Index. We all know the weather can impact how far a ball can fly, but we never know what all that heat and humidity or cold air is really doing to the ball. The Home Run Forecast Index gives us an easy way to determine how good or bad the air is for ball flight. The index is calculated by measuring stadium-specific weather conditions and is displayed on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being the most unfavorable for good ball flight and 10 indicating the most favorable air. There's a strong correlation between the index, the number of runs scored per game, and the number of home runs hit. Games that have the highest index of 10 for the whole game average over 10 runs a game and 2.8 homers over the course of a season. Index is created for each game so you can see what it will be in any stadium and how the weather's influence might change over the course of the game, as well as all wind direction. Right now, you can access the HRF premium site for only $5 a month. See what the index will look like for every hour of every MLB game. Go to homerunforecast.com now to sign up. So I actually thought starters were maybe a little more interesting than they have been the last couple of weeks. I don't know how much you need starters or what you need in starters, but Ryan Pepiot in LA pitched really well as the bulk guy. Tony Gonsolin went on the IL. Sounds like he's probably done for the year. I don't think he's going to be coming back, but they got Sheehan coming back in there too. So I don't know who's going to start. I've seen some projections that Sheehan might get the start over Pepiot. I think that Pepiot's work this week gets him a start, but what did you do with starters this week? I think Pepiot was on top of my list, but I had a bunch of guys down the list I thought were mildly intriguing this week.
Yeah, I like Pepiot. Did not get him, but even you talked about Rob DiPietro pointed out like that they've kind of worked with his release point. That he's getting kind of more vertical in his fastball and changeup, and kind of the effects that's had in terms of like lowering his ball percentage and his command. So he looked pretty good in AAA. I want to say, I forget his exact walk rate, but like he kind of started to show some improvement there. Just reading about like some of the manager comments and, take those for what they are. But like, it just seems like he's quite a bit different than the guy that was there, previously that they'd seen before. So he looks really good. I think this week's tough, but then he's home against Arizona and then probably a nice 2-step the following week. So I was very excited by him. To the tune of $11, and that
did you get him for $11 or was that short?
No, I think it was like 31, and I was the backup was like 18 or something. So
yeah, I really like him too. I'm just a little worried. Like if you pick him up, I don't know if you can start him because we just don't know if he's going to start. I assume he takes that start Friday at Boston. They go Miller, Kershaw, Lynn to start the week, and then Urias is on Saturday. So Fry's the open spot. Pepiot after the bulk work this weekend should kind of fit right in there. I have seen I mentioned before some Emmett Sheehan in there. People thinking maybe he makes a start, but I'm hoping it's Pepiot. I think he's a lot more interesting than me than Sheehan is at the moment. I think I've seen enough of Sheehan to not be too interested there. Anything you did with some of his other pitchers? We had Javier Assad is getting 2 starts for the Cubs this week. He's been pitching pretty well. The starts of Detroit and Pittsburgh too, which was like, you're always looking at the 2 steps. You're like, who they face. Detroit and Pittsburgh is really appealing. Alan Winans in Atlanta gets 2 starts this week. He's actually confirmed starting tomorrow against the Mets and then at San Francisco. I thought he was pretty interesting too, moving in their rotation. What did you also do with starters? After Pepiot, I felt like there were some interesting names. Zach Thompson in St. Louis, only 1 start, but he's been pitching really well last couple of outings. What other starters were you interested by?
Yeah, I like Zach Thompson, maybe a little bit lower. I think I got one share there. Blackburn was available in 1 spot, and made a somewhat competitive bid, but got outbid there, and then
you're such a homer.
I mean, I got a little bit cooled as I kind of looked at his whip.
He's bad, by the way. Did I mention that part of it? Sorry.
But they're juicy. They're very juicy matchups. Let me just tell you who it is. Oakland. It was Casey at the White Sox.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Luis Roberts going to hit 3 bombs off him for sure.
Oh man.
I liked Winans a lot. Someone mentioned the chat about chasing wins. Like he's pitching for Atlanta. He was actually taken in I think all 3 of my main events, and I was like, how did I guess people held on to him and were interested in him, and he's a Braves pitcher. But you look at his numbers, and they're really intriguing. Like he's someone that I probably would have put at the top of my list if he was available. I think I would put him right over Pepiot. They would have been really close for me. But you look at his minor league numbers: 113 innings in AAA, 22% strikeout rate, 6% walk rate, ERA of 2.79, WHIP of 103. Like, give me all of that on the best team in baseball.
Yep. I think I was in the same boat. He was kept in a lot of my leagues, I think last week. Honestly.
I was surprised. I was impressed and surprised. I was like, oh, that's who I'm going after this week. And then I started clicking through, and he wasn't available. It was kind of a bummer there. What do you think about Javier Assad in Chicago? Been pitching fairly well lately, and we mentioned it's kind of a matchup play getting Detroit and Pittsburgh. Were you in on Assad at all this week for the Cubs?
Not really. Maybe I should have been. Yeah, it's like when I tell you who I wasn't on, I think you're gonna laugh here in a second.
Oh, please do.
Over the last 30 days, it's like 6.3% swing strike, which it says that even his 18.9% K rate is probably a little bit overproductive right now. And then 470 Sierra, 10.4% walk rate, 40% ball percentage, 52% first pitch strike. I mean, the matchups are nice. But I just did not quite get there.
I kept scrolling over to the 6.6% swinging strike rate. Also, you mentioned that. I just looked at the season, but you look at his last 30 days. Like every time I was like, oh, I'm going to do this for the matchups. I looked at that and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to strikeouts. If he gets blown up, it's not going to be anything good. So, who were you in on then? Now I'm super intrigued. Tell me.
I mean, in on it is very. I happened to in a couple spots. Man, I'm just going to throw out like 10 qualifiers for this. Alec Marsh. It was Alec Marsh, Scott.
All right, the matchups are there. I added Marsh early this year. I'm just going to let you know. Spoiler: it did not go well. He's at Oakland. At Seattle scares me a little bit, but at Oakland, obviously you got to love that start. He just walks a lot of guys.
Yeah. I am kind of in the spot where. I need some strikeouts, and the ratios happen to be across most of my teams, like the strongest part. And I was thinking back to the end of last year with like Davis Martin. I think Ken Waldachuk was one, but I remember that, and I'm sure you can remember some others.
Martin bad, Waldachuk went well, right? Do I remember that right?
Oh, Martin was a disaster. Yeah,
he got like 8 runs. And Waldachuk had a shutout on the last day of the season. I do know that one.
Yeah.
That was one of those days. By the way, I watched no games until all the games were over, and then checked the box score. So I remember that.
Man, it's crazy.
Super healthy relationship with baseball. Let me tell you.
Obviously, but I think that like. Trying to forecast and go like, those are the guys I'm going to have to be looking at in like 4 weeks, and like kind of going, well, is Javier Assad, how does he compare? How am I going to feel if this Javier Assad at Detroit at Pittsburgh was, in the final week of the season? You'll probably feel a lot better about it than you do today, but obviously, so I did the Marsh thing. I think I have one share for $1. So we will,
are you throwing it for the 2-step this week?
Yeah.
You picked him up. You got to, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Just trying to get the strike, probably drop him next week. Oh my gosh. I'm rolling with Johnny Cueto. Not even Johnny Cueto this week. Johnny Cueto spec last week for $2.
Oh, so look at you! He gets the Nationals this week, and then at the Nationals next week. So you're just attacking Washington. It looks like. Yeah,
he should get
somewhere. Lane Thomas is super offended.
Yeah, Vince Stone Garrett. It should be so. It's at San Diego, assuming they play, and then is that right? Yeah, at San Diego and then Washington.
Oh, is it? He's at.
Yeah. At San Diego, home against Washington this week.
Oh, I don't think Cueto's starting the first half of the week.
Do I need to refresh? See, this is ridiculous. I'm finding out on this podcast. I refreshed this 20 minutes.
I could be wrong. Am I right? I thought he wasn't starting this week.
Ryan Weathers? Is he playing for San Diego? What is Ryan Weathers doing on Miami?
He's playing a revenge game.
Well, Chase Silseth is going in for Johnny Cueto as we speak. I was worried that Chase Silseth might.
According to Sammy Levitt, Padres radio host, Ryan Weathers, who was traded from the Padres, will make a start for Miami at Petco Park tomorrow evening.
Was he traded during the hurricane?
He could have been. Who knows if they'll play in San Diego tomorrow, but apparently they will. Yeah, I got San Diego beat writer Jeff Sanders has Weathers, Luzardo, Alcantara Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, and that's what it's showing on the RotoWire grid now too. So thank you very much.
Hey, I just saved you a Johnny Cueto one step. That's when you speak of me kindly.
I will.
Yeah.
Yes.
Someone in the chat mentioned, is there any chance that AJ Puck reclaims the job? I really don't think so. There's so many struggles there. I think that if they move off Robertson, which I don't think they will, I know it's been a little struggling, but I think Tanner Scott gets that role if they move off Robertson before Puck does.
Yes, I got a Tanner Scott. Tanner Scott. Very pleased. Yeah, I agree. Puck has been really good for the last month, and I had spec'd on Scott right before the trade deadline, thinking that he was kind of going to be the guy. And I still probably think it's the case, but he never really seized it. Although I guess if they were to move on from Robertson, they wouldn't have any kind of loyalty to like go back to Puck necessarily. So yeah, it's kind of questionable, but it does seem ripe for like a good, popping a good closer there.
Yeah, I think it'll be Scott. I just think that I think they kind of saw what we had from Puck, and they just kind of let him chill for a little bit. And I don't think they will. I don't think they go back to him. I was not interested in speculating on that situation. I think they probably just let Robertson give a couple more outings there too. But Tanner Scott's been really good. Like take out April, and he's been really, really good. And that was his only bumpy month. Hasn't given a run yet in August. I think he would get the next op if they went away from Robertson.
That makes sense.
I do know Isaac Moore in the chat pointed Puck was the guy before. Trust me, I do know that. I drafted him. I had him in a lot of leagues. I was really fired up about the first couple months. I think there's enough hiccups there that he's probably third in line at the moment. Just my opinion on that situation. Anybody else stars you were looking at? You mentioned Ken Waldichuk earlier. He was actually someone that I was mildly interested in. He's pitched pretty well lately. But it's on the A's. You're not getting any wins. He's been fairly serviceable, but that was kind of list. I did like Zach Thompson. I mentioned him really quickly for the Cardinals. He does get at Philly this week, which is a tough start, but there's been enough there with Thompson. I think he's mildly interesting as someone who's just kind of showing something at the moment. He's pitching really well. His last couple outings, I'm just looking here. We got 18 strikeouts last 3 outings over what is that? Doing the math, 13 innings, only 4 earned runs. I think he's just pitching really well. Like the K to walk rate is really good his last 3 outings.
Yeah. I like him.
What about relievers? It is a brutal reliever market. This is a year where you need saves. It has just been really tough. Even the trade deadline didn't really open up jobs. I was really excited that I got Carlos Hernandez the week before the trade deadline, and he's been terrible since trade deadline, despite that they've given him every chance to keep the job. He actually got a save earlier this week, but it was only because someone got thrown out at second base by a great throw by Drew Waters. Jason Foley in Detroit, we talked about it last week. I really liked adding him last week. I thought he was very clearly kind of moving into that role as the guy. He was 87% rostered in the main event, though, so if he was available there, that would have been my top one for sure. Jojo Romero with Ryan Helsley getting pushed back a little bit in rehab, although it sounds like he's going to be okay, but maybe it might be a little bit longer now. I thought he was interesting. Gallegos has kind of been lately. Reynaldo Lopez again, maybe with the Carlos Estevez having another a bump of the road this week. I mentioned Tanner Scott earlier. I think he's a decent bid there. Matt Brash in Seattle, pretty much rostered everywhere now, but he's pitching really well. What did you do with this reliever market? If you need saves, what the heck did you do right now?
I was excited this week. I thought they were great. Great options. Like,
I can't wait to hear this one.
No, the names you listed, I get.
Okay, they were available in yours.
Yeah,
I got it.
Irrationally excited by some of these guys. I think Ronaldo is great. I think that. Yeah, maybe Estevez maybe gets the next save, but even if he converts another 1 or maybe 2, I don't think he's, my personal opinion, I don't think it's going to last for that long.
No, Lopez has a 31% strikeout rate this year.
Raylo's been great. He's been great. I've always liked him though. I've always had a soft spot for him. So I think that's pretty ripe in terms of being able to kind of get in and obviously it might not work, but I liked him. I did have him in the leagues where he was available. I had him below Jojo Romero. It does seem like Romero is he worked again today in a 4-run game. He worked the 9th behind Gallegos again. So really looks like Romero to me looks like he's good, the guy. And I mean, Helsley has his own, it's not exactly like a clean bill of health, from his history with injuries. So, I know it seems like he might be back at some point soon, but I could also see if this goes on for any longer.
The Cardinals have no reason to push him at all, which also helps. I mean, a lot of stuff this end of the year is like who's in contention, who's not. It's so weird. Like Gallegos, you look at this, like he's got almost a 20% strikeout minus walk, and I feel like every time I look him up, he's giving up runs. So it's like clearly just I happen to look, but like it just seems like every clutch spot where you're like, all right, now we've got a spot where if he gets this one, he'll be good. But like he gave up runs his last 2 outings. I don't know. He had that 5-run outing against Houston that just murdered me. He's been pretty good the last 20 outings or so since that Houston one, but man, I don't know. I just don't feel great about him. He's been fine, but I think that Romero probably gets the next stop too. I agree with you there.
Yeah, I think, and he's got in the last 30 days like a 2.04 Sierra, 17% swinging strike, 73% first pitch strike. Really doing some things over there. 30% K rate with a 1.8% walk rate. I'm sure they'll come up, but like it's not even got 53% left on base rate, 350 BABIP. Like it's not, nothing's really quite going, exceptionally well for him. So I think that more importantly, I think the games that he's come in after Gallegos have been really telling. Yeah.
I added Romero in 2 of my 3 leagues, so I very much hope you're right, because that'd be a nice little last 6 weeks here if he could hold on to the job. Again, Helsley's kind of in the mix there too, so that might muck it up a little bit. I think we're at least maybe a couple weeks from that, which would be give me a couple weeks of closing. I'll take that right now. Anything else FAAB wise before we talk into a few players here before we get out of here? Anybody else that you were adding? I think we kind of covered everybody. At least I was looking at.
Let me see if there are any more 2-steps that I thought were going to happen. No, that
was Bailey Falter's throwing twice.
Is he? Are we sure? Yeah, no, I did. No, that was about the extent of it.
I have 2022 Bailey Falter scars that I will not get over, so I just can't go there.
Yeah,
I think he pitched 1 out in the last day of the season when I needed him to pitch more than 1 out when he started, and I think he threw a third of an inning.
Oof. Yeah. I looked at Kyle. I went through everything. Kyle Muller, Touki Toussaint. I was just like, I got to have more self-respect than that. So
Toussaint is mileage just because he has a lot of strikeouts. Like if you're at a spot where your ratios are great or your ratios are dumped, it doesn't matter, but you need strikeouts. Like I think Toussaint for 2 starts will be somebody. He's like a 24% strikeout rate. I think that he's someone that will can help you out in terms of strikeouts. If you're like pushing one category, I think Toussaint's playable, but only if you're pushing that one category.
Yeah, I almost did it, but yeah.
I don't want to short Bailey Falter. He did pitch a full inning the last day of the season, so I appreciate the full inning. We had grand total of 0 strikeouts and 2 hits, so a 2 whip and 0 strikeouts was precisely what I needed late in the season. That was an excellent work by Mr. Falter.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the 6 earned runs on September 24th too. That was fun. Let's talk about some players real quick. Mookie Betts. I mentioned I was at the game last night. Dude hit 2 more bombs. Mookie's having an awesome season. I feel like he was kind of like the forgotten late first-round pick. It's like, oh, if everybody goes, I'll just take Mookie. 34 home runs already this year, only 117 games. Like last year at 35, career high, and he's going to fly by that. Hit 298, hard hit rates at almost a career high. Barrel rate is at a career high. Dude is just awesome. I love Mookie Betts, one of my favorite players. He's 30. My question for you is, where the heck does he go in a 2024 first-round draft right now?
Where he always goes, kind of towards the back of the first round.
You don't think he moves up at all? You think he kind of sticks in that spot?
Yeah, probably. I mean, the steals aren't. I mean, it's like 8 steals. He tried to steal home the other day. I was like, let's just focus on like second, for now. But like 8 steals, right? And I'm just like, I'm not sure. I think how the kind of fantasy baseball community is. Like, I think if that becomes what it is, and even when Trout was kind of starting to be like below 10. Below sub single digit steals,
below
like
10 games played.
Exactly.
He's close. He's close to coming back like every week. I'm like, oh, he's close. I'm like, oh, please. I'm worried he's going to shut it. He's shut it down before. I just hope he doesn't shut it down. I'd like to see Trout play the rest of the year, but it's been a frustrating year. A few years of Mike Trout.
Yeah. What do you think? You might take him a little higher, but like 6, 7. Like
no, I don't think he gets there. I think I agree with you. I think he'll be like the guy if you need an offensive player that with an awesome floor, like 10 to 14, like somewhere in there. I think he's kind of where he's going to go. He'll be in his 30s. Everybody will bring up the fact he hasn't stolen more than 12 bases in 4 years. So I think I kind of agree. I think he's kind of the right spot. But man, he's got 101 runs already. He's got 86 RBIs. He's going to go like I don't know, what is that going to be, like 120, 104, 120, 100? Like he's going to have 220 runs and RBIs, get 40 home runs. Like, I mean, what are we talking about? That's a freaking stud. And he's hitting 300.
Yeah. He's amazing. He's on my that team.
Did you see the story of the guy sitting first row who named his kid middle name Mookie?
I did. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that he's on the phone and Mookie's like, "Don't do that. Your wife's going to kill you if you name your kid Mookie." And he's like, "No, she's on the phone with me right now." It's pretty funny. But speaking of guys who've been really good since the All-Star break, Freddie Peralta, I was kind of flipping through stats. He's tied with Spencer Strider for the most strikeouts since the All-Star break with 61, 2.3 ERA. I feel like he's the first half was a little bit up and down, but man, this guy's been absolutely on fire in the second half.
Yeah. I think that I don't have any in the redraft leagues. I got him in a couple DCs, but it's kind of just always a question because he had like a few years, right? Whereas like maybe 3 of the last 4, like shoulder issues, like just that question of like, can he stand up to like a full season's workload? And, I mean, the skills are ridiculous right now, especially they're getting better. I don't know how I'm going to feel. Like, is one good year, or staying healthy for 1 full year, is that enough to be like, okay, he's fine now? Probably at some point, but I don't know where he is going to go and like how much I'll be willing to pay.
Yeah, it's tough because I mean, I think the shoulder thing is the issue too. But man, when he's good, he's really good. It's just a matter of if he's not feeling well, I feel like that's when he struggles, and the ERA is still in the high 3s even with this run right now. But man, 30% strikeout rate, 14.5% swinging strike rate. Fun to watch, and when he's on a roll, there's very few guys I like watching pitch more than Peralta. We mentioned Mookie Betts with the first round offensive picks. There was a lot of chatter in the preseason that Bobby Witt was the worst first round pick in the draft. I was not taking him where he went. I was a little worried about lack of hard contact, batting average. I liked him, but just not where he went. I think he was like, when we first started talking about, he was like 8th overall in the ADP, and he kind of fell a little bit. Maybe he's like 10 or 11. 24 home runs, 36 stolen bases, hitting 280, hard hit rates of 44%, bail rates up 3% to 11.5%. He has anybody who decided to take him in the first round, he's been a huge score.
Yeah. I think he's only going to get up from there, right? Top 5, right? Next year, 6, 7.
Got to be pretty close, right? I mean, if he goes 30-40, like I know it's not Ronald Acuna numbers, but geez, 30-40 is a crazy season.
Yeah. It's been amazing. I wasn't necessarily opposed, but yeah, it's kind of the same thing towards the back. Just didn't quite. I got Freeman in one spot, got Bichette, and then got Betts in one spot. But yeah,
that's the thing, right? Those have all worked. I mean, I know Bichette got hurt, but those have all worked out pretty darn well too.
Yeah.
You had a Cole in there too, didn't you? In Vegas,
Cole was at 6. Yeah, Cole was at 6.
Yeah.
I did Cole, Devers, Teoscar, my boy that I was so sure was going to have a great year.
He had 5 hits the other night.
Yeah. He's and hits the barrel rates up. He's fine.
Yeah, I think he was over 500 for the week. I think he had a pretty darn good week. I mean, Witt's been fun, and you could actually see the improvements with Witt too, which is really nice. I mean, he's down to his strikeout rate's under 19%. Like, he's actually made steps improvement. He's never going to be a big walk guy, but hitting the ball harder, striking out less. Like, I mean, you talk about combos that you want for a guy improving his second year, and it's kind of all that right there. You mentioned Nico Horner. One more guy I want to ask you about before I get a few news notes before we get out of here. What do you do with someone, Kodai Senga next year? It's I feel like there's been a lot of up and downs. There's some starts where you're like, oh my gosh, this guy is nasty. Then you're like, there's some starts where this guy can't find the plate. What do I do with this guy? Do I start him next week? 2.93 ERA since the break, 3.19 on the season. The whip's a little high, just so the walks 1.25. How do you feel about Senga kind of finishing up his first year as we go into next season?
I like him. I don't know exactly, I haven't kind of gone through that analysis of like between who, right? But like, yeah, I think that kind of adjustment period for kind of just anybody anywhere going, in the majors for a year. I think this is showing the improvement. I think I could see myself liking him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gotten better in the second half, which you like to see. I'm just looking at some of the numbers here. The ERA is down under 3 in the second half. He's been the strikeouts are still there, 41 in 40 innings, a little bit down from what it was in the second half, or in the first half. Sorry, it looks like maybe he's adjusting a little bit and kind of trying to figure stuff out as we get here. But the walk rate is significantly down in the second half, which is really key. It was 4.7 walks per 9 in the first half, 3.1 in the second half now. So. Sorry, 4.7 in the first half. So I think you can see the adjustments. You can see I'm going to cut the walks. Maybe the strikeouts can come down a little bit. I feel like he's just a little more in control in the second half here.
Yeah, I like him.
Few news and notes before we jump out of here. Vlad Guerrero left the game this afternoon with some finger discomfort. It was weird. He kind of looked at it, and they left him in the game, and they took him out. They were way up in that game, I believe, if I'm right. Yeah, they were up. They won 10-3. So I'm hoping that was precautionary. Toronto doesn't play tomorrow, which sucks because we have to. If you gotta start them, you probably got to figure out who you're gonna start instead. But they're at Baltimore, which really helps. This is a really big series for the Jays. They need to get some wins. Playing against the first place team here. So I think he's gonna be all right. But that's one that I hope I have someone else that has Monday off so I can decide when the lineups come out on Tuesday.
Yep, I got him in a spot as well. I'm hoping precautionary.
Yeah, I kind of felt it was, especially because saying the game the first time. There's been no talks of any X-rays or anything like that, so I think he's probably fine. Emerson Hancock in Seattle left to start early on Saturday with a right shoulder strain. Mostly interesting here because they had moved to 6-man, and suddenly that's kind of out the window again now. Makes Luis Castillo a 2-start pitcher this week. Definitely puts Brian Wu back in the rotation this week, Wednesday against Chicago. It's funny how, we're always worried about what's going to happen when, everybody's back healthy, and there's never a time where everybody's back healthy. It seems like always there's someone hurt, but Castillo getting 2 starts this week. He gets Kansas City on the weekend. That should be a nice boost for him when he's against only 1 start previously. Let's see. Mike Trout, we mentioned, very close. Not much there. Kyle Tucker missed the weekend with an illness. It sounds like he's going to be fine. Michael Harris scratched with a shin contusion on Sunday. He's been really good. But he says he's going to be fine. He actually said he's going to play today. Talk to me about someone that's important to you, Tristan Casas. What do you have on his? Do you have any word from his dentist on how he's doing?
Yeah, I've been reading up on my dental books here.
How many times have you Googled Tristan Casas this weekend?
A lot. Research on YouTube.
You sent me 4 articles on it, and I assumed you held back, not sending me everything.
I don't even know what it means to drain a tooth.
Doesn't sound fun.
No, it does not.
I've had a lot of tooth work done. I broke my tooth right here playing basketball. Don't ever do that, by the way. It's a horrible experience. It took a year to get an implant. Just me, it's a horrible experience. But I don't think I ever had my tooth drained at that point, even for that.
Man, it sounds painful. I don't know what the recovery time is. I'm not sure if Derek Rhodes has a visual for this, but I'm hoping. It sounded like he's gonna get checked out tomorrow, and as long as everything kind of checks out, he'll be in the lineup for.
He's going to play tomorrow. I think it's just kind of a pain management. He's kind of, I'm sure he just feels like crap today, but it sounds like he was kind of close today. He has been someone that has been really good after that, first 6 weeks when he kind of struggled. He got dropped in some main events. I actually bid on him in a main event. I was really hoping to get him. I got outbid. He's up 20 home runs. Hard hit rate's huge. Barrel rate's over 14%. He's someone that has proved that it's not just the walks with him. He can actually hit too.
Yep. And then I don't know if you followed the last couple weeks he's been playing against lefties. So it's just pretty much every day in there. And it's been huge for him. Yeah,
he's someone that's going to fly up draft boards next year. You're going to see him as a really, really popular pick. I think a lot of people are going to like him next year. Michael Garcia in Kansas City missed the weekend with a rib inflammation, although he pinch hit today, which I think is a really good sign. The fact that they probably don't think he's going to the IL. They say it's not serious, but I did like to see him pinch hit as someone who needs some stolen bases from the Royals leadoff hitter. That was nice. Some Giants news. Brandon Crawford in the IL with a forearm strain. I know that's really disappointing to everybody that's playing him in fantasy leagues because he's such a helper there. Lamont Wade missed Sunday with a lat cramp. It was versus a lefty too, though, so he might not have played anyway. Sounds like he's going to be all right, but that's another one to check to start of the week. Brian, any other things in your mind news-wise? Did you have any other dental updates for us or anything?
No, I'm still on tilt with the Johnny Cueto thing, but other than that,
whenever you're on, I usually put you on tilt at least once in the middle of every podcast. So I'm really glad that I didn't lose that tradition because I love to do that.
Oh man, it's classic. I had the RotoWire grid up, from all the day, and I think I pulled it up even shortly before our call, and then I'm like, what is Scott? Scott is delusional again, and I refreshed it. All of a sudden.
Usually you just assume I'm wrong, so that's a fair assumption.
It's a pretty odds are it's a plus EV assumption. Yeah. But so
maybe you can go back and ask Greg if you pick up Ryan Weathers instead. That might work.
No, that's right. But no, man.
Are they actually just throwing him against the Padres and it's in San Diego? It seems like that might be why they're throwing him, which is kind of wild.
Yeah, I don't know. I was shocked. I was shocked to even learn Ryan Weathers, who I thought was on the Padres up until 5 minutes ago. So yeah, that life comes at you fast.
One last comment, chat. Paul Spohr mentioned, Casas and Torkelson really show how long the season is. We mentioned Michael Harris earlier. Like, the baseball season is so long. Michael Harris was like the biggest bust ever the first 6 weeks, and now he's hitting like 290 and looks really good. And now he's hitting second with Albies out. So baseball season is so freaking long, and I forget it every April when I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait to draft for these guys who are horrible, or I'm going to drop them all, or I'm going to pick this guy up. It's just baseball season is super long. We probably forgot that in 2020 we had that short season. I think we kind of forgot like how long seasons are. It's fun because it's long, but it's also tough. But it makes it it's the best challenge in fantasy sports, and that's why.
I think so. And I like this part of the year where it's like, good guys get, hurt. Like we lost Joe Musgrove a couple weeks ago. It's just like, all right, it's 8 weeks. It's like you're playing a 1 week to 2 week game, like if these guys aren't back, it's like, it's time.
And who you drop is completely different too. Like last week, Jonathan India was like, he's not gonna do anything for 2 weeks. I'm like, I'm dropping. I'm like, it's just probably gonna be 4 weeks, and I'm just not holding for 2.5 weeks of Jonathan India. Maybe like a stud I would, but for the most part, like anybody that's out multiple weeks, like kind of becomes really tough to hold on to at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, more than anything, good luck these last 6 weeks. Hopefully I'm sure you'll stay in touch. I know that there were a time or two I might be underplaying it that I vented to you last season. So feel free to yell at me if you have any sort of Chase Anderson moments. You can feel free to yell at me because I think I yelled about Chase Anderson in the DMs to you for a couple hours. That the double rain out game with him and who's the Pirates pitcher? Ronzi Contreras. I both needed strikeouts, had both guys, and they got a rain delay, and they both left the game in the first inning.
That was the worst. Yeah. This is
tough to top that, especially in like September when it's also so freaking rain.
Yeah.
But that's the fun of the baseball season. Fantasy baseball is the best fantasy game out there for the money, I think, and I'll always maintain it. It's just the season's so long, you have to be skilled and really stay focused the whole year. So more than anything, good luck to you. I know that I mentioned that I like the people that are in the top three, but obviously I am rooting hard for you. I'd really love to see you win one, and you guys deserve it. You guys have been really, really good for many, many years, so it'd be a very deserving winner. So I hope it goes really well. And I told you a couple weeks ago that I'm kind of forgetting my teams. I'm just rooting for who's on your team. And every time Corey Seager homers, I get happy.
That's right, Corey Seager, Mookie Betts. Let's do it.
Do you have Betts too on the team?
Yeah, Betts and Seager. Yeah.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah, that's
so. Thanks for jumping on. I know you're busy. You got stuff to do. You got family going on. You're trying to do FAAB and set your lamp. So I appreciate you jumping on, filling in for Jeff. Any final words you have for everybody that loves you out there?
No, I mean, we made it through the hurricane. I don't want to jump to conclusions that we made it through the actual hurricane, but you and I in this podcast
made it through the no power outage in the hurricane, which
that's right.
It was my only really hope to this podcast. We both keep power, and apparently we did, which is really good.
Yeah, let's fingers crossed. No more earthquakes today. No more. I'm just really trying to hang on.
I saw that update with the earthquake, and I was like, I'm sure they mean hurricane, right? And then I'm like, oh, there was actually an earthquake today. Also, I was like, it's a Sunday in LA.
It's one of the better kept secrets about tropical storms and hurricanes that they come with earthquakes.
Right? Yeah, it was. I was like, all right, I give up on this day. I'm just gonna go work on FAAB. I'm sure nothing that'll happen there. So
for sure. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for jumping on. Thanks everybody for listening. If you want to rate or review the podcast, that'd be great also. Other than that, Jeff will be back next Sunday, I believe. We'll be back actually talking more baseball. Hope he has a really good week. Hope he has a really good fantasy week. Hope you start moving up those standings here as we get towards the end of the season. Take care. We'll talk at you next Sunday.